There is a particular kind of woman who, when life rearranges itself without her permission, does not disappear. She continues, quietly, elegantly, with her place in the world still firmly held. Welcome to Loopels, the Art of Change. I'm Helen Mantzis, and this is a podcast about the moments that shape us, the losses, reinventions, and the unexpected turns that quietly become part of who we are. My guest today is Krystyna Campbell-Pretty. Many people know Krystyna for her extraordinary contribution to fashion, philanthropy, and the arts. She has built one of Australia's most significant fashion collections, is a recipient of both the Legion of Honour from France and an Order of Australia, and has lived a life filled with culture, beauty, intellect, and purpose. But the reason I wanted to speak to her goes far beyond titles or achievements. Nearly 12 years ago, after the sudden loss of her husband Campbell, I saw Krystyna walk into her favourite restaurant alone for the first time. She sat at the same corner table they had shared for years. Composed, elegant, heartbroken no doubt, but still entirely herself. I've never forgotten it. Because what stayed with me was not simply grief. It was dignity, presence, the quiet courage of continuing. And that is what this conversation is really about. Not just loss, but what comes after. How we carry love forward, how we remain open to beauty, purpose, friendship, and life itself, even after unimaginable change. This is a conversation about grace, legacy, and the art of continuation. Krystyna, welcome to Loopels. You are notoriously private, but actually quite purposeful woman, which makes this interview for me even more fascinating and I think really, really interesting for the Loopels audience. Most only know Krystyna as we see her today, always immaculately dressed, philanthropic, sharp, considered. However, what most people don't know is the Krystyna before all of this. Can you tell us a little bit about the tenacious young girl, where you grew up?
It's a long story, not a short one. I was born in England. My father's Polish, my mother's English. We migrated here on a boat. We were legal boat people in the 50s. In fact, it was the 5th of May 1957. I came here as a 5-year-old child, and I've got the whole migrant experience well and truly in me. And I remember life in England. I remember the boat journey. There was a war in the Middle East, very unusual, isn't it? The Suez Canal was closed. We had to come all the way around Africa and South Africa. It was a very long journey. 4.5, 5 weeks. What does that do to you? It changes everything completely. What you knew is not what is. And what is changes almost daily too, because they came with very little money and it was a hard slog. So first years were spent in Richmond, now called Cremorne, that part, in front of the Rosella factory. Our house backed right onto the Rosella factory, literally, Cubitt Street. And they were happy years. They were very good, happy years. The place was full of migrants, absolutely full. It was just before the large amount of Greeks came in. So it was a mixture of Greek, Italian, every possible nationality. And it was very vibrant. But my memories were that there was terrible red hair, there was terrible food, and you had to go to the Continental Delicatessen in Swan Street to get anything reasonable to eat. People, I think, don't realise how bad things were before it all changed and developed. And 57 is still quite early in that whole migrant cycle. So that was the background. I grew up, I'm an only child. I was sent to Catholic school all the way through. The first one actually only went up to grade 3. It was on the corner of the street where we lived. And the nuns, it was a multi-purpose building. Sunday it was for church. So it was a very interesting background with nuns all the way. Then in 62, we moved to Ormond. And my parents are still alive at 195 and still live in that house.
It's incredible.
And again, sent me to the local Catholic school and progressed from there.
Was there a relationship during that time that really helped shape you?
Yes, without any question, because being an only child, I think that also shapes you a lot because you're it. when we arrived in Australia, my mother had to go to work, which she didn't do in England. But England, it was different. We live in a little Polish community in the Midlands. So she did things like, I think all the women, and it was like a village. They went potato picking or did whatever work they could do, but didn't have jobs because I suppose it was not really what women did. But when we came here, there was no question. She was straight at work. We were surrounded by industry. There was a local printer, and before she got married, she'd worked in printing as an assistant. So she got a job and picked me up from school at 3:30 most days until that didn't happen. And most school holidays, I was alone.
That's amazing.
I really got used to being alone.
Independent.
And being totally independent and self-sufficient. And I loved it, actually. And it was different because people next door would look after you, would look in on you. You know, it was a real village.
It was.
It really was a real village.
The immigrant story.
Yeah. So there was all the things we'd worry about, no one did, because it was genuinely everyone caring for everyone else. It was a real environment.
Do you think your mother was one of the most important impacts in terms of...
No, my father.
Your father was? Why is that?
It's a good question. I'm not sure. She even now defers to him all the time about every damn thing, and it really annoys me. She's 95. You can make up your own mind on that, you know. Oh, no, I need to ask your father. No, it was him. He has a very a magnetic personality is probably the best way to put it. And even though he had to drop out of school because of the war when he was 13, he's got a huge intellect and very well read, managed to learn English just by joining the British Army and only speaking Polish and Russian and Ukrainian. Suddenly you're in England in basic training in Scotland. He's a coper, and I've learnt that from him.
Yeah, survivor.
Yep.
He's 100.
Yes, he turned 100. He's got all of his faculties, but like all of us, has trouble remembering names.
Wow.
But not the names of family, but, you know, tries to think about the name of someone 50 years ago. My mother will remember that.
Krystyna, I don't remember names. So at 100, I wonder what I'm like.
That's what I told him.
So he sounds like a real character.
Yes, he is. He is.
Yeah.
A person that's, you know, everyone likes very much.
And he got the letter from...
he got the letter from the king. Oh, the king and the queen, it's like a photo card. So it's happy birthday with a picture of the king and the queen.
Oh, really? Always wondered what that was.
Yes. So there's there are no telegrams anymore. They don't exist.
Yeah.
No one, they couldn't, they do have iPads, but they don't do email. They just use it for searching.
It's fantastic.
It's funny, actually.
There's something that people may not know about you, which is your career actually started in as a researcher and management consultant, which is...
No, there was a job before that.
Oh,
goodness.
what was that?
I trained to be a social worker. I went to Melbourne University. I did social work, combined social work, arts psychology degree. So that was my first job. I was a social worker. Because I started school at 4.5, I was a bit ahead. So I went to university at 17. I was out by 21 or something. But that's what I really wanted to do. I really did want to be a doctor, but I didn't have the guts to do it. Really, it's lack of courage. I wished I had. Anyway, I wanted to be a social worker, and I did. I did it for 3 years.
And what made you transition out of that?
It was very harrowing. Worked for the state government social welfare department. In 74, they had huge problems of churn. Young social workers would come in, stay a year or two and move on. Part of the problem was we were all straight out of university. We had no life experience, nothing. And for me, I was put into placing children in foster care and adoption. And it is very harrowing, especially the foster care.
Yeah, it would have been really
The adoption
taxing.
was relatively straightforward. There were some babies then too, 300 or 400 a year. Some of the situations were not good. Some were brilliant. And so it's hard to describe.
And then from there?
Well, one of the clients I'd placed a baby with turned out to be in advertising, a company called Monaghan Damon Adams, Phil Adams Company. And he was one of the directors there. And he said, your skills would be very transferable to research. So I ended up moving into research. It took me a long time to decide, but I felt I could always go back to social work, but I just couldn't handle the work that I was in. It was very stressful.
Yeah, it sounds like it really stayed with you.
It was very, I would take it home and that was no good. And that was a previous husband also. There's another husband back there.
What? Are you allowed to fill me in on that one?
Oh, yeah. I made the mistake. No, it wasn't. Well, no, there are no mistakes. There really aren't. Because from everything you learn and you do better next time.
Yeah.
And you just, anyway, there are no mistakes. Having said that, I got married at 19.
Oh, so you were young.
I was still studying. I finished studying. He'd just graduated in architecture and it seemed like the right thing to do. But I would take home all of the stresses, all of the problems, and that's not good. I was a mature 19, but I wasn't ready for what. He wasn't ready for it either, to be honest, and he was mid-20s. Campbell, my second husband, I went to work with him and we got married 2 years later, actually.
Right.
We got together 2 years later. But it just grew from there. So I moved into that and enjoyed the work a lot because you kept changing topics. You know, clients would come with one problem or another problem, and it was forever entertaining, and it wasn't stressful in the same way. It was very hard work in terms of long hours, extremely, extremely hard. But when we started in FMCG and just ordinary things, doing a lot of work with agencies, we ultimately moved much more into very large corporate clients and advising them on strategic management decisions. And it was a change, transition. Didn't happen in a day or a week or a year. It happened over a number of years. But in the end, the business was very much management consulting and directional work.
And what was the catalyst for you to shift from that?
Everything happens by osmosis, you know.
Yeah.
One job led to another. People would see we had skills in certain areas and they were much broader than just a project-to-project basis.
Yeah.
And we got the work. So we got some very big, large-scale projects for large companies like Ford Motor Company, various computer companies, and we loved it. We really enjoyed it.
Would have been a lot of fun. A lot of hard work though too.
Yeah,
being
it was. It was very limited hours to sleep.
I have to say, I've had benefit of having some conversations with you prior to us sitting down here, and you're an incredibly grounded person. And I say that because I see the way you move through life, and you don't have an assistant.
No.
You're deeply involved in caring for your parents. You touched on that a moment ago. You're very hands-on in everything that you do.
I think I've never known any other way to do it. Campbell said, I'm no good at delegating. He said, you've got to learn to delegate more. But then when I did it, he wasn't happy with the results, so I just kept doing what I did.
Do you think that's part of the immigrant story though?
I think it probably is because I'm used to being a child, at home school holidays from when I was 6 or 7 on my own and was very happy, very content.
Yeah, it surprises me because I look at you now and I think you're so busy. I know what your schedule's like. You have no one helping you. You just get in there and do it, which is fantastic.
Yeah, but there's a lot of hours in the day and I don't draw lines, so.
Love that. Tell me about the shift towards fashion and art.
People say you should plan this, plan that. I don't think you can plan completely. You should have a broad idea of where you're going and what you want to do. But after that, it's a matter of you see the opportunity and you take it. Campbell and I, when he was alive, we were a little involved with the NGV. We went to a dinner or two. We gave them small donations. But he was really not very interested in art. He was more interested in the performing arts. So we were, at that point, more involved in the arts centre than we were the NGV. But I've always been more into the visual arts and very much loved it. So it transitioned. He passed away. The NGV offered me a position on the foundation board, which I took. I thought, that's good, get me out and about and doing a few things. And it just moved from there. Before he died, we actually did give the NGV a significant donation to buy a painting, which is still on permanent collection display now. And he liked the painting and he liked the involvement, and he said, what we should do over time, we'll give them a really big donation when the right thing comes along. So I remembered that. And when the opportunity for the fashion collection came up, I thought, I think this is it.
That's the moment.
And then it just went from there.
Well, I have to say, I have a personal memory that I want to share as part of this podcast. And it was something that I think the Loopels audience would be really interested in. For years, my husband and I used to go to D'Estasio restaurant in Melbourne, Australia, and we'd walk in Friday night just for a quiet dinner. And in the corner booth was the most beautifully dressed woman with her husband, and you looked incredible. And I think everyone in that restaurant felt that. And I remember returning a few months later, and I saw you sitting there in the on the corner table by yourself. At the time, obviously, I had no idea that your husband had passed away. But there you were, fabulous hair, beautiful outfit, stunning makeup, dining alone, the same elegance and composure that you always had. And it's something that I haven't forgotten. And that was one of the reasons I reached out to you.
Get back on the bike. There's no point, cabaret. No point home alone in your room. Come to the cabaret. But life is there.
But what did those Friday nights mean to you?
What do they mean? Getting out and being in life. Being in life, involved in life.
And
better than TV, much better than TV.
And the dress up and the
why not?
Old glamour and
well that's also part of the migrant thing. And my parents still, someone's going to the doctor, we've got to get out the best outfit you've got.
That is so true. My grandparents were exactly the same.
It was very much a migrant thing. And I noticed that the Australians never did it the same. There was still Sunday best dressing, but there was something different about the migrant experience. You had to present yourself.
No, that's very true. Tell me about Campbell. How did you meet?
How did I meet him? Well, I went to work for him. The client, Michael Drummond, said he's got a job, go and have an interview, so I did. And so I worked with him it was about 2 years, I think, before we actually got together.
What was Campbell to you, though, not in the formal sense of he's your husband? What as a presence, as a person?
He had very good social skills.
Did he?
Very, very good social skills. Very outgoing, very bubbly, which wasn't his private persona. He could be so depressive at home, which was a shame, which I didn't know of course, until we lived together. But he had a very engaging manner with people. And he knew things I didn't. I knew things he didn't. And we were very complementary in many ways.
It's a great partnership. And of course, if you don't mind me just touching on, there was a tragic accident at home in May 2014. Can you take us back to that challenging period, Krystyna? What does a shock like that do to a woman, and how did it alter the way that you saw things after that?
Well, there's so many basic things that you don't think about. I handle absolutely everything, every single part of the relationship, running a house, dealing with the tradesmen, doing everything, running the business, interviewing staff, everything. There was one thing he didn't let me into, accounting.
Which is a common story for anyone.
I mean, not even, I was registered for online banking, but I'd never done it. But I had a code, and in those days there were little counter things they gave you. But I had to do things like pay the funeral director. So I just sat there and did it. It was very interesting because when something is so sudden, there's no time to, I wasn't going to go into the bank and get a lesson in online banking. You just do it. And I'm actually good with computers, so it was quick and easy. And it was very easy, and I thought, why has he kept me out of this all this time? Because I could actually be doing more for him than he realised. The basics, the paying the bills. From that very first minute, life has to go on. I remember the following morning I rang solicitor, who's a very good friend as well, And he said, well, look, I'll come round, but, everything's in order. You've just got to do it.
So do you think that's a lesson for women in general or people in general, is maintaining your, I wouldn't say financial independence, but your independence in a sense? Ask the questions, lean in.
Yep. But it was just a shock of suddenly having to do things that one in particular, because I did everything else. To be honest, it was quite easy, except for that one thing, and that wasn't that hard anyway.
I mean, I love the way you say that, because yet for many people in a situation like that, to walk into D'Estasio's and sit in a corner booth or a table by yourself would actually take a lot of effort.
Yeah, I'm surprised at the number of women now say, oh, you're eating alone, come and join our table. I actually don't want to. I enjoy being alone. But yes, there is a thing amongst a group of women, I think women who've had privilege, who've never had to do things, and suddenly not to have a husband, you somehow lose legitimacy. And I never felt that. Not at all. Just do it.
Krystyna, I remember talking to someone the other night actually, and they'd caught up with you somewhere, and then you said, okay, I'm off. And they said, where are you going? And you said, I'm going to is it Apollo Club or Polo?
Oh, Apollo Inn.
Yes,
yeah.
I'm just going for a drink. And they said, with who? And you said, myself. I mean,
why not?
Exactly.
It doesn't bother me one bit.
There seems like there's a strength in self, though, in your character that is actually quite comfortable in your own skin.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hard-earned?
Yeah, I'm not, no. The things I don't like about myself, a lot of them. But I am who I am, and I'm accepting of that. And if want to feel like a drink after dinner, good. I'll do what I feel like.
Does that come with maturity or life experience or all of
maturity.
the above?
The older you get, the less you can. Who cares? So what?
So what do you say to people that have lost a partner and feel they've got to disappear or retreat?
The psychologist in me says they've never used to doing anything on their own. It's very hard. If you've lost your sense of self and independence in a relationship, and that's what it comes from, because you've always been a part of a unit, and when the unit's broken up, you don't know who you are. I think the problem there is not an easy one. But I've never had that problem. I just want to keep moving on, keep moving forward.
Do you think Campbell would be proud of you?
Yes, I think he'd be frustrated because he didn't think it would be this easy. The hardest thing was, and these are the very basic things, because we were always together, and we used to do a bit of walking. I mean, I'm not talking, so we walk in the city. I always wore heels, stilettos, high ones. I walked in them very happily for a number of, really until I was a bit, after he went, 3 or 4 years after that, I had to have foot surgery, probably from the stilettos.
As a result of the heels.
Who knows? Anyway, I enjoyed them while I had them. But wearing heels is not that easy, walking on the street on your own. And you've got a man to grab onto, but it's fine. First day I went out, I thought I'll walk to the city, and I had these stilettos on. I turned back. I got to the gardens. I turned back. I thought, I'm not walking. I'm putting on flat shoes, which eventually just became sneakers. And I never looked back from that. But it was really, I never expected that. I didn't expect that at all, that my stilettos would have to go. But I wasn't that attached to them. He was more attached to them than me. I would have been happy.
You are our Australian version of Sarah Jessica Parker for us, I think. You and Campbell were longtime supporters of the NGV. Was art a shared language between you both, or was it you dragging him into that a little bit more, do you think?
Oh, it was definitely me. Though he could see the NGV was something we should be supporting, because it brings in so many different areas and conceptual things. I mean, there's beauty, there's art, there's history, there's all of that. So he realised we should do it. But it was, in terms of going to exhibitions and things, it's very much me. It used to frustrate me on earth that he wouldn't go to, we'd be in Paris, and I was sort of allowed one museum maybe, 1 or 2 museums, and all I wanted to do was visit museums, really. I didn't want to do very much else.
But where's that come from, Krystyna? Because you've come from an immigrant family, you wouldn't have exposure to that.
I never went into a museum until a friend at school I think I was 13, She took me to the NGV, which was then in the library building, so at the other end, in Swanson Street, the old building.
Yes.
And I loved it so much from that very first moment.
You fell in love with art.
Yes, yep. And then I would go very regularly with one or two of my friends all through those years.
And is it fair to say you chose to honour Campbell not with a building or a foundation bearing his name, but with hundreds of extraordinary garments given
it's a collection.
freely
It's a collection
to a public museum?
Yeah.
Can you tell us what was really behind that, the thinking behind that for you? What did it say about the life that you built together? Was it?
Well, he loved clothes, women's clothes and men's clothes. You know, when we travelled, we'd spend a lot of time in shops. Whatever we were buying, he was there, and me with him, because we were never apart. It was that kind of relationship. I knew all where the best Stefano Ricci shops were in London, Paris, New York.
And so did he, by the sounds of it.
Yeah, I mean, I've still got some of the ties, actually. They're very beautiful. I remember going to Florence for the first time after he passed away, and there I saw the Stefano Ricci shop. I'm looking in the window to see which ones he might like.
Was there a moment in the stillness and where you just thought, oh, how am I going to do this? Or no, never let yourself go there?
No.
Yeah.
No, it never occurred to me. Well, it was just a matter of you have to keep going.
Yeah.
Campbell has a daughter. I have a daughter. Campbell's daughter's mother became sick a few months after he'd passed away. There was no question. I mean, it's just a matter of you keep going. You keep going.
I actually have something I want to read to you, Krystyna. It's a letter from Tony Elwood.
Oh, right.
I have known Krystyna throughout my term as the director of the National Gallery of Victoria. Krystyna has become a wonderful friend and collaborator throughout this time. Her passion for the entire collection is truly remarkable and rare. While there have been so many extraordinary fashion acquisitions that she is highly regarded for, that have truly transformed both our holdings and our reputation as a major world collector of fashion, Krystyna has also demonstrated interest across all, and I do mean all, collecting fields of our collection. These can often be some of the quietest aspects of our collecting, for example, investing heavily in works destined for our archive for research purposes. Not an area that garners a lot of attention, but contributes enormously to research and scholarship. There doesn't seem to be an area of the NGV collection where Krystyna isn't either intellectually curious or philanthropic. She's truly one of a kind. Krystyna has also developed what I would call industry standard knowledge about how to acquire works, understanding deep knowledge about conservation, collection, relevance, rarity, provenance, etc. It is a remarkable and rare skill. This is all due to the affection and respect she has developed both here and internationally. Another quiet but extremely meaningful area of her support is for funding to give access to disadvantaged schools to the NGV. This is life-changing for children that attend this. It also clearly demonstrates Krystyna's inclusive and sensitive social agenda. We call Krystyna our fairy godmother because she creates magic for us. Every week, she is deeply loved and admired. There is no one like her in our community or country. I feel blessed to know her. Tony Elwood.
It's very nice of him. That's how my life has changed. One thing leads to another. As I said, it's called destiny. This is what you cannot plan. This is what you cannot in any way say, well, this is what I'm going to do next and that's next. I mean, I'd see something and while I'm looking at a fashion auction, I'd see some wonderful photography. And I said, are you doing photography? And then I learn about that. The beauty of things like a national collection, which is owned by everyone, not by one individual and hardly ever seen, is that it provides an avenue of learning, of interest. So children, people, adults, anyone can go, can see a work, can ask about it, can go to various lectures and study groups that they have on those things, and can just sit there and immerse themselves in the beauty of it. Beauty is a very important psychological need for almost every human being, I think.
We're going to talk about that because it's quite a bold statement. I will come back to it. How important have those relationships like Tony Elwood been to you in terms of moving through the chapters of your life? You know,
I think so. Yeah, well, I've never actually abstracted it like that. But yes, those relationships, because I think I'm still friends with a lot of people that, for example, I knew when we're running our business.
Yeah.
And we still have dinner every year or so, or, you know, if I'm in Queensland, I'll drop in to see them, things like that. So I can't help myself. I've got a very strong curiosity about knowledge, information, learning, history especially. It all stems to history. Hence the archive. How can you understand fashion without an extensive archive? We need to have that. We need to have the fashion magazines that circulated in the late 19th and 20th centuries, as well as the Vogues and Harper's and all of that, which we do have. We need sketches that show how artists progress their thinking. But the archive is very important. And without that depth, we don't have the knowledge.
So do you think generosity and philanthropy can be a form of healing?
I've never looked at it that way. But I think any form of giving is healing, and people don't give enough.
Yeah, I mean, there's two in particular, yourself and Lady Potter, that what you do, I don't think it's undervalued. You do incredible things in terms of generosity and philanthropy. You moved from a career in research, we touched on that before, into building one of the most considered private collections. Yet I can't help but wonder how much of your analytical instincts seem to sit at the core of your curatorial eye.
Yes, very much. Yes, the researcher is in me constantly. I can't see something or learn about something and not want to go a long, long way further.
So do you think it's a pattern revealing itself, or do you think it was a little bit preordained in you?
No, nothing's preordained. You have a choice and you follow.
And you take
That's
that road.
It, yeah.
When you look back at Krystyna Campbell-Pretty during the climb to build yourself or find success, what are you most proud of?
Persistence. I don't give up. I just keep going. I find a way to manage things, to cobble together whatever has to be done. I get there. So I don't know. If you ask in terms of in philanthropy, what am I most proud of? It's the children's program at the NGV. Apparently, it's 20,000 children have now been through
Wonderful. It's wonderful.
that. And they genuinely are underprivileged children who otherwise would not get to come to the gallery because we pay for the bus fare and lunch and paying exhibitions. So, and the NGV have very good education school who know how to handle the kids and show them what needs to be shown.
It's a real reward for them, I would think. I'm interested in your take on this growing momentum around what's been called quiet luxury, a move away from overt fashion status towards subtlety and discernment. How does that reshape what is considered truly collectible in your mind? Is it relevant?
No. No, I think that's consumerism. That's another aspect of consumerism. What's collectible, it's effectively the art of what the work is. And if it's fashion, it's going to be in the construction, in the design, in what the designer was trying to say. So, for example, apparently coming up at an auction in June in London, there will be one of the first Mondrian dresses of Yves Saint Laurent, which is 1965. Which was haute couture because that's all he did until the late 60s. But then it made me think, okay, what was so special about the Mondrian dress? It's a block cut, completely shapeless shift in which a Mondrian style painting or print is on that dress. But it's beautifully made and it's pretty much brought in an abstract expressionism into fashion. You could put that kind of thing on a dress. And as I say, it was shapeless. Going from early 60s, there was still some shape in the dresses, and this was just a shift. It's very, very basic. But there's a whole lot of them. You look at any of Alexander McQueen's work, You go back to Schiaparelli and her beauty of converting completely weird and off the wall ideas, surrealism, into different aspects of fashion. This quiet luxury means you're not going to be you're buying things because they're quality and they're nice and they're good. True high fashion is it's a form of art in so very many ways. Sometimes it can just be the intricacy of the work and the historical beauty of, say, an 18th century costume. And they really are very beautiful, but they're not beautiful in the way we would wear them now. But when you look at the construction and why it was made in that way at that time, that's great.
And the story
It's really
behind
good.
it. You've actually said that fashion is visual and social history, reflecting
Yes.
the role, perception of lives of women in society. That's actually a political statement as much
Yes,
as
it
an
is. It
aesthetic
is.
one.
There's politics in all of this.
Absolutely.
Really.
Do you see yourself as an advocate for women when you stand in those auction rooms in Paris?
No, that's not to do with women. What's that? That's to do. There was an auction in Paris in January, and I did feel I was an advocate, but I was an advocate against the powerful. This was a very exceptional auction. It was the wardrobe. Oh no, it was only mostly the Dior wardrobe by John Galliano of a woman called Muna Ayoub, who was once the richest woman in the world. She had been married to a very wealthy Saudi prince, 5 children, and then she escaped. Literally, she ran away on a Paris trip in the late 80s. But in the subsequent divorce, her husband had married 2 other women without telling her. I mean, there was a good reason for this. She then, in the divorce settlement, got huge amount of money. It was more than any other woman had been given at that time. And she embarked on a relationship with all of the major designers, Karl Lagerfeld, Galliano, all of them, all of the houses. And she bought literally thousands of items of haute couture and never wore many of them.
Really?
More than once. I used to think she was an awful person and, this was such a waste and everything else. But when I got to know exactly what she was doing, she was buying art, and
Collector.
she kept it very well. But now she's in her 60s and she's gradually selling it. And most of the museums in the world are out there trying to get it. She sells by brand. So she sold the YSL a couple of years ago. We got some brilliant work in that. Some of the best was Jean-Paul Gaultier. She had some beautiful works of his, and he's meticulous in his work. So the best dress that I bought from that, which is in the NGV collection, and I'll eventually put it on display, it's a pair of jeans made into a dress with the most enormous feather bottom, but it's a real pair of jeans which has been opened up, flattened out, and apparently Gaultier's influence was his grandmother showed him how they managed things in the war. You just adapted things, and it is very, very beautiful. It was a very expensive purchase, but I regret nothing at all. Anyway, it was a bit of shades of that. This Muna Ayoub auction of Galliano's works. There were a few things in there. I mean, we wanted any number of things we could afford, but we couldn't afford everything. Mr. and Mrs. Bezos had just been named as honorary chairs of the Met Gala. They also happened to be in Paris at that time for Fashion Week, and they went to a viewing of the auction. They completely closed the hotel for 2 hours so that they got their private viewing. Unfortunately, they underwrote the Met Museum to buy all the best works. They just paid for it. It didn't matter how much it went for. So there were a couple of garments that went for €600,000. Now, that's not heard of. There are expensive works, but nothing
Not
has
to
ever
that
been
level.
like that. It's evil, actually. At the first half of the auction, I felt really bad in that room because I thought, this is not. I know this industry. I know the other people in the room. I know the other museums, and this is not what we're like. It was just raw power, absolute raw power, and I just felt it was politics, but I really felt very bad about the whole thing. There was a collection John Galliano did where he was influenced by homeless people, which he got huge criticism for at the time, but the outfits were just beautiful. They really were. Really, really beautiful. Anyway, we didn't get those high profile pieces, but I managed to get a few other things.
Oh, wonderful.
And the good part was when they finished that power play, that horrible display of power, everything settled down to a normal routine. It was nice. It was really nice. You know, we were all bidding and, you know, laughing at each other. And
It's a bit of a family, is it?
yeah, it is a bit of a family, yes, very much.
You've said without beauty, people are not at peace emotionally. That's a bold claim. What do you think beauty does for a woman, particularly a woman going through something hard?
I don't think it matters whether it's a man or a woman, because beauty is, you know, you walk in the garden and you see a beautiful flower. Its beauty is nature. Nature presents beauty. Nature, we get flowers and we get beautifully coloured birds and everything because beauty will attract attention. Nature knows that. And it's soothing to the soul. It takes you out of yourself. You see something, and if you're looking at it and you're into it, then you're not thinking of whatever the other thing is. You've got a diversion. And they do know now that it's a very important sort of part of therapy in people who have got problems and in depression. Because if you can get out of yourself enough to see something beautiful, or it may not be beautiful to everyone, but it is to you, that is a huge benefit to the person.
There's real conversation around women ageing. In fact, there was a recent article about why fashion suddenly loves older women. And Vogue did something it has never done before, Krystyna, and put two 76-year-old women on the front of it, Meryl Streep and Anna Wintour. What do you think's going on?
Yes, there is a sudden sort of interest, but it keeps popping up over the years, keeps popping up. There's nothing new. In European culture, age is not such a big factor in terms of a woman. A woman only is seen to improve in many ways.
Yeah, Japanese culture's like that too.
Yes.
But you came into your most defining chapter in your 60s and beyond, and you do it with such extraordinary flair. The way you dress, the way you present yourself, the way you occupy a room. You'd never agree with me on that, but it's an observation. Is that conscious?
It gets back to presenting yourself. So I just present myself. I always have. That hasn't changed. Just because I'm getting older doesn't mean I can't present myself. I've got to go into a shell. You are who you are until you die or until you decide you're not who you are. And that's a decision you take. No one else takes it for you.
What do you think our culture gets catastrophically wrong about older women, about what they're capable of, what they're allowed to want, how they're supposed to look and behave?
It makes assumptions. It assumes things, and nothing can be assumed. Okay, the stereotypes are there for the young. They're bad for young women too, because as a young woman, you're supposed to do this or supposed to do that. But who are these people doing it? It's to some degree, it's advertising and media and everything else. And social media is very bad for all of that because of these influencers or whatever they are. And there is money to be made, clearly. People are making a lot of money. But that's not reality. The reality is people are who they are. They do what they do, and they will always do what they do, and don't need to be told don't and won't and can't. You can, you will.
I like that.
Just be confident.
Influencing with purpose? Is that where you...
Me? But I'm not on social media, I never will be. No, live by example. Just do it, and too bad if they don't like it.
What's aging given you in terms of clarity and confidence that you simply...
Certainty.
Yeah, certainty.
And certainty means you might be wrong.
And you're okay with that?
Oh, yes, perfectly okay. Life is about taking risk.
So for women that are watching you and afraid of what comes next for them, the loss of a partner, the loss of relevance, the loss of beauty as the world defines it, what would your message be to them? What does Krystyna Campbell-Pretty know that she wishes every woman knew?
You will endure. Just do it. Just focus on that matters to you, and in the process, try to do something for everybody else around you. But don't self-pity. It's not all about you. It's not all about you. It's about the world and how you interact with the world.
And do you think the ledger's tilted the wrong way a little bit in the world?
What, in terms of making people think they should or shouldn't do things? I don't know. I've never really bothered. I don't pay attention to it.
Yeah.
You know,
You're busy.
it's a nothing for me because I'm doing what I'm doing. I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing if I'm not feeling I'm making a difference. I'm learning as I go. I'm able to contribute. That's the only question. Can you contribute? What can you do? How can you go forward? How can you progress whatever your thinking or desire is? Just do it.
Hear, hear. You mentioned your grandchildren when we met, and you kindly agreed to do this conversation. What is it that you want them to know or to one day understand about who their grandmother was and how she lived?
Oh, well, she loved them. I want them to know that, but they would know that. Be brave, take risks, and never look back.
Good message. Is there something you hope
And don't be scared of failing. Don't be scared if you make a mistake. Mistakes are good. So they're the things I would like them to go forward with. And what they think of me, you know, I actually don't care. Yeah, I've often over the years I've looked at them and I thought, I don't know what they make of me. My grandson for many years had a habit of writing, every year you had a birthday, he'd put the number in. And my daughter tried to tell him, you don't tell her she's 68 or whatever, you know. And he kept doing it. I thought, good on you, Roman.
He's probably trying to
was
tell you
cute.
where
It
your
was really
place was
cute.
in the world.
Yeah.
If you could sit across from the young Krystyna, the researcher, the consultant, the woman who hadn't yet lost Campbell and hadn't found this extraordinary purpose, what would you want her to most know?
Be brave. I wasn't brave in the beginning.
You weren't?
No. I think about, you know, at university I hardly ever spoke in tutorials. I was never mousy, but I was not confident of my views. Now I am.
Where's that come from though, Krystyna? Is that just experience? Or
Yes.
it is? Or is it life's hard knocks?
Yes.
Yeah, all of the
I
above.
think some things you can't, I don't think I could have been trained to not be apprehensive and nervous and everything else. I couldn't have. I just had to do it, and make the mistakes and be able to look back.
I think it's an excellent message for women and men. What does continuity look like for you in this next chapter of your life?
Yes, I've often asked myself that question. This can't keep going the way, cannot keep doing what I'm doing in exactly the same way. How's it going to morph and change? I'm not sure. I'm just going to wait and see what unfolds. Because with each thing that happens, you react and you take these in a different direction. I'm really not sure, but I'm willing to just play the game. It's a game. It really is a game. There's destiny there, and she decks out the cards, and you say yes and no, and some of them play very well and some don't. It is destiny.
Krystyna, thank you. Really appreciate your time. I know how, as I said in the beginning, how private you are, and it's a real honour for you to be a part of Loopels and to share some of your journey with us.
Well, thank you, Helen. It's been insightful for me too, because you see, you don't think about these things. You're too busy.
Yeah.
Inside, you're always too busy. No, move on, do that. But it's good to self-reflect. It really is.
I want to thank Krystyna Campbell-Pretty for her generosity, honesty, and trust in sharing parts of her story with us. I want to acknowledge that Krystyna comes from a generation that values privacy, where not everything is shared and not every story is offered up for the world. Perhaps that is what made this conversation feel so rare, being invited into something so thoughtfully held. What struck me most about this conversation is that Krystyna never speaks about grief in a performative way. There is a quiet strength to her, a sense that even through profound loss, she chose to remain open to life, beauty, friendship, and meaning. I think that is incredibly rare. I also think this conversation reminds us that elegance is not really about fashion or appearances at all. It is about how we carry ourselves through change, through heartbreak, through the chapters we never expected to have to live. And Krystyna does that with extraordinary grace. If this conversation resonated with you, I would love for you to follow or subscribe to Loopels on your favourite podcast platform. For a small independent podcast, it genuinely makes a difference. You can also visit loopels.com, where the conversation continues beyond the mic, with photographs, reflections, and Krystyna's beautiful letter to her younger self. And if you would like to stay connected between episodes, you can find me on Instagram at Helen Mantzis _Loopels. Thank you for listening. Loopels Conversations are available on your preferred podcast platforms. For exclusive behind-the-scenes insights, head to loopels.com.